In the previous video, a U.S. fighter jet was attacked by an Iranian missile land. The F-15EX struck back with overwhelming force. This time, a B-2 stealth bomber was ambushed at Donand. America responded by leveling 5 of Russia's strategic strongholds. What happened? Let's dive in and find out. It all began with a nightmare that shook the world. On the 3rd of June, 2025, Russia launched 42 ballistic missiles and 6 hypersonic vehicles traveling at over 7,000 kilometers, each directly toward the US B-2 base near Alaska. Inside, 8 B-2 stealth bombers worth $2.1 billion each were waiting for their fate. Can you guess what's about to happen? Drop your prediction in the comments. Just seconds later, reinforced concrete bunkers exploded. Fire columns shot 90 meters into the sky, a scene straight out of the apocalypse. But Russia didn't expect that this bold strike would backfire. Within 48 hours, the U.S. launched a fierce counterattack. 90 fighter jets pierced through S-400 defenses, fired 60 HARM missiles, and obliterated Russia's command centers. And it didn't stop there. 24 JSM cruise missiles skimmed the ground, destroying fuel depots and aircraft hangars. So why did Russia's bold attack end in disaster? With 5 major bases wiped out and not a single U.S. aircraft lost? Hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover the truth. Russia chose to strike from where no one expected. At 6:12 a.m., mobile launchers deep inside Siberia opened fire. Each missile carried multiple warheads, paired with 6 hypersonic glide vehicles designed to evade interception. The target, Elmenorf Air Base home to 8 of America's most advanced B-2 Spirit nuclear bombers. Although the early warning system picked up the threat in time, the base had only 4 minutes to react. Alarms blared as Patriot and THAAD missiles launched into the sky. Brilliant explosions lit up the Arctic skies. However, the sheer number of incoming warheads overwhelmed the defense systems. Just 5 minutes later, 4 warheads punched through reinforced hangars. 2 B-2 bombers worth $4.2 billion were obliterated. Secondary explosions spread to fuel lines and radar systems, shaking the ground. Fire and medical crews fought through a hellish inferno to rescue 11 pilots with severe injuries. Material losses exceeded $600 million, but the core strike force survived. 6 remaining B-2 bombers were either training off-base or secured in underground shelters. What seemed like a crippling first blow from Russia turned out to be just a scratch on America's strategic armor. The battlefield was now set for an unprecedented counterstrike. All of America was in shock. Retired generals warned. Moscow had dared to strike at the very heart of U.S. strategic power. Television broadcasts showed satellite footage of giant fireballs erupting over the skies of Alaska. Admiral Charles Hunt declared, "The first strike is always bold until they see us strike back." Don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. But the attack wasn't just bold, it was a deadly mistake. By targeting bombers on U.S. soil, Russia unintentionally triggered a fierce response. Within hours, the Pentagon finalized a counterstrike plan to penetrate deep into Russian territory, take out 5 strategic bases, and send a message that could not be ignored. And the U.S. began its counterstrike cold and precise. A massive intelligence network was activated. From the Arctic to deep inside Russian airspace, RQ-4 Global Hawk Drive 1s flew at 18,000 meters, scanning for heat signatures and radar activity, setting the stage for a retaliation plan with pinpoint accuracy. Right after that, the U.S. deployed its air power ace. The RC-135 Rivet Joint Circle cled international corridors, gathering all electronic signals. Meanwhile, reconnaissance satellites were repositioned, skimming low over Russian airspace, capturing every movement from troop formations and radar sites to SAM missile systems. And then, the unthinkable appeared on the command screens. High-resolution infrared imagery exposed every base, fuel convoy, and newly deployed Russian radar station. The joint NORAD CENTCOM command center worked around the clock, tracking every S-400, S-500 system, and the movements of the Su-57 fighter fleet. As night fell, the target maps were complete. Hundreds of vulnerabilities across Russian territory were marked with pinpoint coordinates. Cyber warfare teams silently infiltrated Russia's communication networks. Naval intelligence confirmed unidentified missile ships leaving the White Sea port. The Pentagon knew the moment had come. In reality, the U.S. had spent decades preparing for this worst-case scenario, and this time, that preparation paid off to the fullest. Russia's rushed attack had exposed fatal flaws. By the end of day one, the entire counterstrike plan was drawn sophisticated, synchronized, and ready to shatter every layer of defense. But this wasn't just retaliation. It was a symphony of war orchestrated to dismantle every link in Russia's defense chain. Command centers, supply bases, early warning radars, they were all targets. This time, the U.S. wasn't playing defense. They were about to deliver the most devastating first strike the world had ever seen. Before the true storm began, a message was sent to the global audience. Witness the most iconic counteroffensive since Operation Desert Storm. Codenamed Iron Retribution, the campaign combined stealth, electronic warfare, and precision air power to shatter every illusion surrounding the S-500. And at the heart of this plan lay a brutal truth. For U.S. aircraft to survive, they had to break through the most powerful air defense network on Earth. Russia's S-400 and S-500 systems could detect targets from 400 kilometers away and launch Mach 7 missiles capable of downing refueling tankers flying beyond national airspace. But the Americans had prepared a scalpel cold, precise and terrifying. A strike group of over 90 fighter jets was assigned clear roles. The tip of the spear, F-35S, operating in total silence. Equipped with the advanced AN/ASQ-239 system, they scanned enemy radar without emitting a signal, turning themselves into ghosts in the night sky. Linked together through the secure Link 16 network, F-35 pilots created a live electronic map of every threat. Behind them came the EA-18G Growlers, the masters of electronic warfare. Each carried 3 ALQ-99 pods, blasting 30,000 watts, tearing through radar frequencies. Russian screens filled with ghosts, false signals, and phantom targets. The chaos multiplied exponentially. In some zones, Russian radar screens suddenly went dark as if their eyes had been gouged out. And at that moment, F-15EXs and FA-18 Super Hornets surged in like poison-tipped blades. Armed with AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles, they tracked the last traces of enemy radar and struck at Mach 2.5. High above, the U.S. Air Force's elite warriors had taken their positions. F-22 Raptors flew at 15,000 meters, sweeping the skies with the ultra-sensitive APG-77 radar to hunt down any Russian aircraft that dared to approach. With super maneuverability and supersonic cruising speed, they were ready to eliminate Su-57S before the enemy even saw them coming. Once the corridor of death was opened, America's sky assassins unleashed their firepower. The F-22S swept the skies like guardian angels. Below, F-35S hunted targets. Growlers jammed enemy signals. Super Hornets wiped out radar, and now it was time for the B-2 and B-1B bombers, the Stealth Reaper STO, begin their hellish destruction. Step by step, the war machine moved with Swiss watch precision. F-35S identified targets. Growlers silenced Russian radar. F-18S wiped out SAM sites. F-22S secured the skies. And behind this curtain, B-2 and B-1B bombers quietly closed in carrying dozens of smart bombs, waiting for the order to obliterate Russia's strongholds. At the highest level, America's eyes never stopped watching. Reconnaissance satellites and RC-135 rivet joint aircraft monitored every new signal from Russian ground systems. Any radar that switched on was immediately marked. The data was updated in real time, allowing commanders to adjust tactics and shape a living, breathing strategy on the fly. And by sunset on the 4th of July, every piece was in place. Aircraft were refueled at precisely calculated locations. Pilots received their final mission packets complete with coordinates, hour, and electronic threat maps. No one said much because they all knew. This was the strike that would remind the world why the U.S. remains a superpower. And by sunset on the 4th of July, every piece was in place. Aircraft were refueled at precisely calculated locations. Pilots received their final mission packets complete with coordinates, hour, and electronic threat maps. No one said much because they all knew. This was the strike that would remind the world why the U.S. remains a superpower. And in the end, one final message echoed like a warning across the modern battlefield. The United States may take the first hit, but its counterstrike will bring enemies to their knees. Millions watching around the world understood deterrence remains the core, and America's combat readiness is not up for negotiation. The world is changing through technology and firepower. Be the first to understand how superpowers strike. Subscribe now for the most gripping and precise military breakdowns.